part was recorded in previous sessions. So if you're just joining for this recording, go back, watch yesterday's because I go over this again. Thank you so much, Teresa. I really do appreciate that. What this essentially says in English is when the button has been pressed, it is false that the note is hidden. Otherwise, it is true that the note is hidden. That's essentially how you could think of this logic if it were written in English. Does that make sense? Can everyone give me a yes, no, plus, minus? I do appreciate that chat feedback. That's something I'm big on, is constant chat feedback. So can everyone let me know, does that part make sense? And if not, please let me know so I can go over, answer any questions, or clarify. That's correct, Servando. The count is initialized to 0. So yeah, so the count, yeah, go for it, Catherine.
So I know you probably did this. So that press count, you had a drop-down box. How did you get the drop-down box?
Right there. Anytime you put the period, it'll show you all the qualities, essentially. The name for quality in Desmos is a source. So that's why it says source here. When you see source, think quality. So I put the object name and then the period, it'll automatically show you all qualities of that object that you could reference. Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you so much for asking, Catherine. Any other questions? Anything I can clarify, go over? Okay. So hopefully this is making a bit of sense, because we are going to be doing a lot of conditional formatting today. The essence of self-assessments really is conditional formatting. So let's take a look then at this first problem. Okay. So as a lot of you saw, oh gosh, I just got to share. It was so hard. I saw a whole column of X's in Desmos here. And I was just like, oh my gosh, everyone's getting it wrong. And I had to be like, that's okay. I told them to get it wrong, because I'm so used to when I see a whole column of X's, I need to stop the class and address the misconception. But anyways, so if you put the incorrect answer in there, it tells you not quite, but keep trying. I put this little emoji in there because I find that if I don't put an emoji, students' attention is not drawn down here. So the emoji helps capture their attention. And then I put a hint. Okay. So then they could go back and edit this and they could do 24. Awesome. And not only that, but it gives them a different question. How did they determine the length of L prime, M prime? And then it gives them a meaningful sentence frame. So there's a lot going on in there. And we're going to learn how to essentially take the skeleton of this slide and replicate it for each of your classes, because we have teachers from 7th grade to high school, and I think even the adult school. We have special educators in here, all different subjects. So I want us to be able to take this skeleton and make it useful to our context. So let me just first show you the drawing right here. So I've got a graphical element right here, a graphical object. And if I edit this, I can go in there and I can graph stuff just like I would on a graphing calculator. So I could do y equals 3x plus 1. There we go. We've got a line. I don't want that, so I'm going to get rid of it. But I wanted to put a polygon in there. And I say polygon because, excuse me, that's the code in the graphical layer for constructing a figure, essentially. So I denote all 3 vertices. And notice how I use a variable. And the reason I'm doing that is because I want to label each vertex. So I'm saying that the variable capital A equals the ordered pair 4, 4. B equals 4, -4, and C equals 0, 2. And notice, I'm labeling this A, B, and C. It doesn't matter what you name these. You could name this F and then just go down here to polygon, change A to F, and it still works. So your labels do not have to match what name or what variable you assign each ordered pair. And then to make the construction, you just type the word polygon, and in parentheses separated by a comma, you put A, B, and C. And then it will construct that polygon. So is that clear how I made this polygon, how I used the graphical tool for the construction? Any questions? One other neat thing, thank you, Lisa, thank you, Ramon. One other neat thing is that if you go right here to the cog, you can change the color. So had anyone ever wanted to change the color of figures before in Desmos and just not known how to do it? Because for the longest time, that was something I was like, how do you do that? Well, right here, you click on the cog button, and it's really cool. You can change the label size, so I could make it way bigger. I'll send it back to a 1. You can change the position. So sometimes you want it to be in a specific spot. You can change the color. There's all these different features that you can change. Now, the next thing I've got, the next element, is the math input box. And I'm not going to go, well, real quick, initial latex, that is what you've got typed into the math input box, essentially as a sentence frame. Not really a sentence frame, kind of like how on a worksheet you might have, like, you know, what's your answer? Blank units. It's the exact same thing here. These slashes, and here, I'll scroll in. Can everyone see the screen okay now? Is the code visible? Oh, awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So the only way you can get a space in a math input box is by doing a \space. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this part because that's not the key. You can take that out, and the self-assessment part would still stay the same. The first thing that we need to do is we need to define, oh, sorry, let me see, Servando. So initial latex informs the computer. Let me zoom out a little. So this right here is not text. It's not a string. Do you know what strings are, Servando? Like in the computing sense? Yeah. So basically, Desmos doesn't treat this as a string. Desmos treats this as its own script called a latex. So the initial latex doesn't inform that the text is code. What the initial latex does is it says this string is going to be converted into a latex, and that latex is going to be visible inside the math input box. So just like how you have initial text for a text input box, you have initial latex for a math input box. Does that clarify the difference in what initial latex is used for? Awesome. Okay, thank you. So the first thing we need to do is we need to describe what is the correct answer. And the way we do that is a little complicated. What we're going to do is we are going to create a variable, and then we're going to set that variable equal to this command. Or not equal per se, but we're going to pass this variable through the command, essentially. So I'm going to create the variable correct, and you could rename this anything you want. It doesn't have to be correct. You know, you would then have to go back and rechange all these corrects to the different thing, but we're not going to do that. We're going to keep it simple. We're going to keep it as correct, the variable. But correct equals this. This here is referencing this object. Okay? So I could, instead of typing this, I could type answer 1, because this object has the name answer 1. I'm a little lazy and I usually go with this just because that's my habit. But this object, the math input box, and the quality that I'm referencing specifically is the numerical value that the student types into the box equals 24. So the variable correct is set to equal the number, or when the text, or excuse me, when the math type equals 24. Okay? And that's a little complicated. But what I have found is that setting it up this way, where you have a variable and then pass that variable through the command, that produces a much cleaner result. And it's a bit easier to edit and modify. So once we've created the variable, we then have to designate that this variable correct is the correct answer. So this highlighted text right here, does that part make sense? Because that's a little complicated. So can you let me know in the chat? Yes, no, everyone. Does that highlighted text make sense? Okay, thank you, Ryoji Mark. Okay. Thank you, Stefan. Okay. So thank you, Jose. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go into some of the conditional part. We have set the variable for correct to the correct answer. But remember, there's a few different responses or a few different patterns that can happen depending on the response. If it's correct, then it tells me it's correct, and it gives me a question and a text box to answer. But if it's wrong, then it gives me, it tells me I'm not quite there, and it gives me a hint. Okay? So now we need to go in and code those two different responses. And this is where it gets a little trickier. Show explain is a command that tells the math type box to show and explain, or to give you the opportunity to explain your work after you submit your answer. So this box right here, this asks student to explain their answer. Normally you would check that, and it would then underneath, once a student submits their answer, it would say explain your reasoning, and then it would provide a text box. We don't want it to explain, we don't want students to be able to explain their reasoning all the time. We want to wait until students get the correct answer to explain their reasoning, or at least in this problem we do. So show explain, we don't want it to be true all the time. Because if it's true all the time, then they would basically a wrong answer would be treated as if it were correct. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the conditional statement when correct and submitted. So those two conditions need to be satisfied. When the student inputs 24 as the answer and when they have submitted their answer. So notice, if I type 24 in here, this doesn't pop up. It's not just that you have the right answer, you have to press submit. Okay, and I do that because I don't want students just going here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't want them doing that. I want them to make actual, attempts. So if their work is correct and submitted, then it's true. They see the show explain. Otherwise, they don't see it. So does this part of the code make sense? Can everyone let me know? Yes, no, plus, minus. Does that part make sense? Thank you, Mark, Leticia. Okay, thank you, Servando, Ramon. Okay, I really do appreciate all that chat response. That helps me know, because I don't have GoGuardian up, so I can't see everything. That helps me know that everything's going okay. So the last, not the last, excuse me, because we've got two more. For the next command is the explain prompt, because if I take that out, if I take this out, the default is just explain your thinking. And that's very vague and boring. And that doesn't really help students provide meaningful responses. So I want to go in there and edit that. A, because I want them to know they got it correct, but then B, I want to ask a more tailored and specific question. So the command I'm going to use is explain prompt. And this one is relatively simple compared to some of the other ones. In quotes, I'm going to type whatever it is that I want them to see when they get it correct. Whatever, however I want to tell them they're correct. Maybe I want to put emojis in there. Maybe I want to say, yay, awesome, well done. Maybe I want to ask a specific question or a few different questions. And then lastly, I'm going to use the initial text. And so, Servando, this kind of gets to the question that you had asked earlier about initial latex. Initial latex codes for the answer frame, if you will, for the math type. Okay, so this right here is coded for with initial latex. The sentence frame right here is coded for with initial text. So in initial text, we are going to put in the sentence frame. And I'm actually not going to go over, actually, no, I will. You don't actually need it for a problem like this because they're only going to see this if they get the correct answer. But what this does is this is a referential. This references whatever they submitted as their answer. Okay, so theoretically, they could do, 48 over 2 as their answer or 24.0 as their answer, and it would still be correct. And the numerical value quality will pick up those nuances. So this right here makes sure that exactly what the student wrote, that's what shows up in the sentence frame. So there's that continuity there for them. Any questions so far about this? I know I'm doing a lot of talking. Please let me know, am I spending too much time? Am I going too quickly? Because I do have a wide range of audiences, so I'm trying to make sure all needs are met. But please let me know, am I spending too much time? How's my pacing? Just right? Okay. Can you see and modify the code for every teacher activity in Desmos? 99.99999% of them, yes. A few specific activities that Desmos has made, for some reason, I don't understand, they have locked the code. And I hate that. That actually really annoys me because I want to understand that code and copy it myself. So 99.99999% of them, yes, you can see the code. There's a tiny percentage of them that you can't, but most of them you can. And that's actually a great way to learn, is to look at the code of other people, see how it works, and make some changes with it, edit it around, see what fails, see what works. That's honestly a big part of how I learned. So what we've done so far is we've coded for not only that 24 is the correct answer, but that when they get it correct, they are told that it's correct, and that they get a sentence frame. And let me see, my pace is quick with this. Okay. Okay. Let me know, and Lori, and especially people who are a little newer to Desmos, please do feel free to stop me at any point, because I really do want to make sure this is all accessible. Okay. Thanks for letting me know, Lori. So we've coded for this part so far, but now we need to go in and code. Well, what if they get it wrong? Okay. And this is where we're going to have a separate note. Okay. So I've got a separate note because I don't want them to get the explain feature. When they get it wrong, I don't want them to explain their reasoning immediately in this case. Sometimes I do, and we'll see that in example 5. But in this case, I want them to work until they get the right answer. So when they get it wrong, in this note right here, we're going to put a comment. So we're going to use the command content. The command content controls what content is shown in the note. Okay, so this note here, you'll notice it's empty. Okay, so this note right here has a ton of stuff in it, but this note has nothing in it theoretically. But because I've coded the content in here, when appropriate, when triggered, stuff will appear in that note. So when, and I've used the operator here, not. So the way not works is you take an object and you put it inside parentheses attached to a not. And that basically says whatever is not this case, anything other than correct. 24.1, 24.01, anything other than 24 that the student put into the box. And they must have submitted it. Okay, I don't want this showing up unless they have submitted it, because maybe they put the wrong answer, but then they rethink it. Okay, I want to give them that space and time. So these two conditions have to be met. Okay, they have to not have the right answer, and they have to not have submitted it. The content of this note is not quite, but keep trying. Apparently, I'm not joking, apparently in the Emojipedia, if you look up Festivus, this is a random tangent. Where did I see it? Right here. Apparently this arm flexing emoji, they have related to Festivus, which I never knew about. Random tangent. I just thought it was a strength thing. But anyways, so I put that emoji in there. That's my sign to them that they need to go back and make some changes. And then I put the hint. Okay. Otherwise, in all other situations, when their answer is correct, and or they have not yet submitted it, this note will be blank. That's what the quotes with nothing inside means. It means blank. Okay. So does this code make sense right now? Can everyone give me a yes, no, plus, minus? Does this part make sense? Let me know if there's anything confusing, anything not quite clear. Thank you, Lisa, Leticia. Thank you, Francisco. Okay. Yes. And actually, Ooh, so let me address your question, Servando, and then Mark, I'll address your question. So Servando, you are about to, in about 5 minutes, you're going to be working on an independent activity where I have gone through and put notes in all the key places that you need to edit. Okay, so I'll go ahead. Right here's the template. And when you go in here, right here, so I'll zoom in so it's a bit clearer. All this right here, it's highlighted, so it might be a little hard to read because it's gray. All this right here is a note. You'll see I put the hashtag here. If I take the hashtag away, it errors because it doesn't know what it is. But if I put the hashtag, the code ignores it. It skips that line. So I've got templates for this slide and the next slide we're going to do that go step by step. These are all the things that you would need to change in order to modify the problem to make it what you want it to be. So does that help? Does that seem like something that's useful? Awesome. Hopefully it will be. Hopefully it will be. The other thing is that as you're working, you might want to take notes. Maybe there's something that, you know, really that I say that really helps you, or somebody else says that helps you. If you want to take notes in here, just go to a new line, put the hashtag, and you can type whatever you want. Okay, so you can make notes for yourself in here too. Okay, so we'll get to that in just a second. Mark, you had asked, could I use initial latex here? No, I can't. And the reason is because this is a note. So latex in this case, and latex in this case refers specifically to the Desmos script that we know that I tell my students is called math type. So right here, where you could type square root of 4 or whatever like that, that's all math type. And that only works that command only works for the math input boxes. If you want to have math type in here, what you do is, like, I don't know, I'll just insert a random equation in here just to show it. If you want to have something in that special math type, underneath escape, you're going to see a button, a key with a tilde on it and a backwards apostrophe. That backwards apostrophe, you can type stuff in there, 3x equals 9. And if you put that backwards apostrophe on both sides, it'll show up here in math type. Okay, so you can see right here, it's not written in the regular Arial. It's written, you know, just like if it had been in this math type box. Yeah. But yeah, the command itself wouldn't actually work in here. And then there was one other question. Jose, how are different conditions separated? Do you mean, so right in here? Are you talking, Jose, about the when and otherwise? Like how this is separated from this right here? Yeah. So each of them is separated by a when. So theoretically, I could put the otherwise right here, and I'll show you the code still works perfectly fine. Okay. So I could do, you know, whether it's the right or the wrong answer, it still works the exact way I want it to. I don't do that because to me, that's not really easy to read. And this is where we get into conventions. Because I had somebody at another session ask, is this like Java where you have to indent? No. If you've ever done Java or other coding languages, it's very flexible in the formatting. But I highly recommend using a consistent convention, because it will make going back, just like how we tell our students, if you don't write legibly, I can't understand your answer or your work. It's the same thing. If you don't write, if I didn't write my code in a way that was easy to be understood, no one else would be able to do anything with it. So that's why I indent and whatnot. That's my convention. Okay. I realize I probably expanded a bit more, but yeah. What if the line of code is longer than one line on the screen? So this, I think if you put a space, I don't know. See, right now I'm having an artificial issue because I'm zoomed into 150 point font. I believe that it'll just go forever. No, it won't. So I'm honestly not sure, because I have never had that issue. Okay, so it seems here. I'm gonna play around with that. I'm gonna play around with that, Servando. I think so. I think that's the case where it's considered one line if you don't hit enter. But I'll play around with it in just a minute, because I can't recall writing code long enough that it took up multiple lines. But yeah. Any other questions? Anything else I can go over before I release you? Going once, going twice. Sold. Okay. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you access to a few things. So right here, you're going to see the Desmos template that I was talking about. So if you click on that, and I'll also put the link in the chat. And if you click on that, what I want you to do is go right here to the 3 dots next to the big plus near the top right. And I want you to copy and edit this activity. When you do that, it'll make a copy for you. You'll know it's a copy because it says copy of. And it will open you to this screen right here. Your first task is to duplicate. And I thought about this. I intentionally wanted to make sure you learned how to duplicate, because I'm not sure everyone knows how to. Right next to teacher tips, if you click on the 3 horizontal dots, you see duplicate screen. Let me tell you, that is the best thing in the world. Because I will spend maybe 5 minutes coding one slide, like a practice problem. Practice problems are usually where I spend the bulk of my time coding now. I will spend 5 minutes coding on one slide, then I will duplicate it a bunch of times, change the numbers, change the figure, modify it however to be a different practice problem, and it takes a fraction of the time. So practice duplicating, especially if you've never done that before. And then what I want you to do is I want you to go in here and create a totally new problem that is more appropriate for your context. Not everyone teaches 8th grade. So maybe dilations are not in your standards. Maybe I used to work with 7th grade. You could probably, one thing that I think would be really awesome is you could do like a proportional rate of change problem where they're having to write the rate of change in here. Maybe you're doing, I'm thinking of my partner. She teaches older students, and she was doing work on inverse functions. You could probably do something with that in the math box. The only thing I would say, and actually now I'm thinking probably inverse functions wouldn't work. The only thing is that it has to be a numerical answer. So do something that has a numerical answer, whatever seems most relevant to your subject. I'm going to give us the next, how about 11:25? So I know that's 18 minutes. That's a long time, but I really want us to have time to practice this, play around with this, and ask questions, okay? So does that sound good, everyone? 11:25 will reconvene, but take that time, practice, edit task 1, and ask me all your questions. Does that sound good, everyone? Okay. Thank you, Chloe. Awesome. Okay. Awesome. Thank you, Francisco and Femi. So go ahead, everyone. Like I said, right here on slide 10, click here where it says here. And then you're going to copy and edit and duplicate slide 2. And I'm excited to see some of your problems. And I'm actually going to go fill up my water real quick because I did not fill it up high enough this morning. Okay. So please feel free at any point. Let me know if there's anything I can do to support. I want this to be a useful time for each of you. And please feel free to present your screen at any point if you have any questions that you want me to go over. And in the meantime, Servando, I'm going to investigate. And Jennifer, do you need the link again to the Desmos activity?
Yes, thank you. Having trouble I'm logging onto a different device to see if I can access it better.
Okay, no worries. Yeah, Desmos is a little particular. It likes laptops or desktops or computers in general, computers in general better.
Yeah, so if you, yeah, thank you. I'll log on.
Yeah, of course. Please if there's anything that I can help with while you're working. Right now we're working.
I am a newbie. So this is way over my, but I'm gaining stuff. So I'm just going to play around with it. And I like listening to the conversation, but I don't think I could even form a question yet.
Okay. Well, if that's the case, play around with it. Use this time to play around with it however you see fit. And as you're playing around, feel free to ask me questions, even if it's not about the coding part.
Okay.
Feel free to ask me because I can answer, and I want this to be useful for each of you.
Yeah, no, it is. It's helpful. And I like the whole design idea of creating the lesson and how you're thinking about the design. So I'm definitely getting something out of it. But yeah, the coding, I try to help a kid home hospital this year with coding, and it's like a foreign language.
It is. No, you're absolutely right. Coding is a different language. Yeah. So it can be a bit tricky.
Yeah. But thank you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
Erika, I have a question.
Yes.
So is there a way to label the axis of the graph?
Yes. Yes, there absolutely is. I'm going to present my screen. And I see somebody messaging me. I'll get to that in just a second if that's anyone in here. So right in here, if you want to mess around with this, you click on that's a wrench. I always have to remind myself. But you click on the tool and it gives you a ton of different options. So I don't know if I don't know if polar coordinates are taught anymore. But if they are, then you could, use polar. You can put arrows, which I like to do sometimes. You can change the axes. You can change the step. So how frequently, oh, let me get to your question in just a second, Servando. So you can also label the x-axis right here. So for example, you could do time and money, and it'll show up right here. Okay. Any other questions about this?
Thank you, Erika.
Of course. Okay. Let me, Servando, I'll get to you in just a sec. Oh, sounds good, Teresa. Go for it. Okay. And Servando, you had asked on slide 4. You're already looking ahead to slide 4. So this right here. So this refers to any object or to the object itself. Okay. So in this case, this refers to the button check 1. But right here, I've got this, and this refers to the the text box answer 1. Okay. Or the math type box, excuse me. So this simply refers to whatever object the code is in. Okay, does that make sense? So yeah, if that makes sense, yeah, hopefully that helps clarify. Let me know if there's anything else I can do to support. But yeah, this just refers to the object the code is in. Okay. And Servando, I'm currently looking to see what happens if code goes on the next line. So I'll get you that answer in just a minute. Yes. Oh, go for it, Catherine.
All right, so I'm attempting to put in the correct answer.
Okay.
And my correct answer, so there's technically 2 correct answers, but one's a fraction. So how do you put a fraction in without it going to error?
So, and they're equivalent?
It's the slope. So it's the answer's 2 or 2 over 1.
So would you mind sharing your screen real
Sure.
quick, Catherine? Okay. I believe that the way numeric value works is that as long as they are equivalent, they will both be correct. So I could be wrong. Let me check this.
Because I know when I put 2 over 1, it tells me the code's wrong.
And yes, so what you would do is you would enter that as a decimal, and then, yep, I just confirmed. So if you put that in as a decimal, oh, okay, so it's a whole number.
Yeah, so the answer's 2, but a lot of the kids will in the 7th grade will put 2 over 1 because
Trust me, I love when they do that. So yeah, if you click on done and go to preview.
For this, okay.
Yeah.
And so they can put 2/1 and it still be correct?
Yeah, if you go to preview real quick, you can actually test it out to see if 2/1 works for them. Yep.
Okay, yeah, I haven't fixed the rest, but okay.
Oh, I know. One other thing, and this is unrelated. It looks like the points A and B are draggable, and I think you might want to turn that off.
I don't know how.
Oh, okay. So if you click on Edit Graph.
Okay, I was just doing this. That's playing.
No worries. That's awesome to play with it. So here's what I would say. The only time you need to label your ordered pairs is if you're going to be referencing them when you construct a shape. And can you scroll up on your code real quick? Yeah, so you put the line in there. So then those points aren't actually used in a construction. So you can take the A equals and the B equals away.
So just, but then it won't be labeled. So if I want the lattice point there.
So it actually will be labeled if you do take the A equals away.
So if I take this part away?
Well, you would have to, so what you would do is you would put in 0, it was what, 0,2? I forgot what it was.
0,1.
Oh, 0,1. Okay. Oh, I always do that.
Oh, I see. And then label it A like that.
There you go.
And then it's no longer, so the equal part makes it draggable?
Yes, but let's say, and actually, can you go back real quick just because I want to show you there's another way to make it draggable. If you keep that B equals real quick. And click on the cog. It's on the top right of the short gray bar. Or yeah, there. Yeah, so if you see, you're going to see the drag. Turn that off. So you've got the
I see, toggle.
Yeah, the toggle. There you go.
Okay. Okay.
And so now you've set it to a variable, but it's no longer draggable.
Okay. Perfect.
And that's something that annoys me. I don't know why. When you set an ordered pair as a variable, Desmos defaults to making it draggable. I really don't like that. But yeah. Any other questions, Catherine?
Nope, that was it.
Awesome. Everything making sense?
Yeah, so far I'm getting it.
Awesome. I love to hear that. Because yeah, this is a little trickier, the coding. It took me a while to figure out and teach myself how to do this. So yeah. I'm sorry. Let me see, Jose. I modified the slide as you instructed for problem. Can you, Jose, would you mind showing your screen? Because there's a few different reasons that could happen.
I'm having problem doing that. I think they changed the setup for Google Meets. I know that it's been a month since I've been using Google Meets to teach a class, but it looks a bit different.
Yeah, it's the present button. It's a rectangle with an arrow pointing up, and it's in the center. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Well. That's not it.
Oh, okay.
I guess I can present an entire window.
Yeah, I think that would probably, yeah.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
So
okay. Can you zoom in a little? Because it's hard for me to read what you've got on your screen. Although, actually, let me. There. Okay, thank you.
So here is the problem that I have.
Okay, determine the speed of the car whose motion. Okay, awesome. And then
I modify the code to give it to show the correct answer is 2 meters per second.
Uh-huh.
So I pretty much I edited what you have.
Perfect.
The answer. This
Perfect.
is, I'm not sure this is correct.
Um,
I do notice that symbol right here that you mentioned before.
so that'll make it math type. So it's not, yeah. So I would take those two backwards apostrophes out because it'll condense it into one big word. But that wouldn't explain the submit button issue. So can you click on done and then go to preview again?
So here I try to enter any answer. The answer is 2. I'm putting 3, but it's inactive.
Okay. Can you exit out again and let's try something. So if you go back to the code for that math type box, go down to the bottom, press enter, and we're gonna use a new code because sometimes this happens. I find, and the workaround is to use the code show submit button or something. Yeah, so right there, you can just click on it, show submit button, and put true. And let's see if that works. Because if it doesn't, then I've got another idea.
Should I click on done now?
Yep, I would click on done. I'd go to preview and see if it works.
Does it matter if there's a space between the answer and the unit?
No, it shouldn't matter, but try taking the slash out of the MS. Yep, that's the issue.
Okay.
And so,
So is there maybe I can write the words down instead of putting the symbol for meters per second?
I would try doing that. I would try doing like maybe would MPS. It's been years since I've done physics, so.
If I can write it down like that?
Yeah, I think that should work. So let's see if that works. Oh, no, because no, I know why. Because it thinks that SEC is the secant function.
Oh.
So here's what I would do. I would type in MPS. Would that be an acceptable acronym?
Yeah, if I can tell the students what it means, and that'll be fine.
Okay. Yeah, so I would try MPS because that should work. I don't see, I mean, it's functionally the same as unit. So if you go to preview and then, yep, there we go.
Okay.
And so, yeah, so first of all, thank you so much because that debugging is one of the most important skills, especially when you're beginning. Have a good run, because you're I can tell you from experience, you're gonna get codes wrong all the time, and it's having that ability to look through and analyze and why is this not working? But yeah, and that looks perfect. That looks perfect. Everything else. So yeah, and it looks like it's okay with M/S everywhere else. It just doesn't like it in the math type box. Okay. So I said that at 11:25 we would move on, but I just want to check in and see how's everyone doing? Is it okay if we move on? Do we need a few more minutes? Any other questions? How are we doing? And I would agree with, well, I would put a caveat to what Servando said. Debugging is very fun after you've debugged it. It's very satisfying once you debugged it. Very annoying while you're debugging it. Nowhere near as satisfying while as after. Anyways, can everyone let me know if you need a few more minutes, if you're ready to move on? Because I don't want to move on if we need a few more minutes. But if everyone's ready to go, then I will move along. Okay, task 2. Is that okay with everyone if we move on to task 2? Yeah? Okay. Okay. So let me go ahead, present my screen, and this right here, this one right here, I got to say I'm a little proud of. Because this right here, there's a lot that I'm going to be bringing to Desmos for the next school year. But I think this right here, I'm going to be bringing for homework and even for some classworks, because it is so wonderful getting to see how students react when it shows them visually what the correct answer is overlapped with the with their incorrect answer, because they really get to see what specific mistakes they made. But I also know that I remember there were a few questions at the beginning. So Mark, is it still okay if I share with everyone your work?
Absolutely.
Okay. I'm going to unanonymize just so I can go to Mark. Okay. So you did, it looks like you did, you drew lines for the figure, and then you used text boxes for the vertices, for labeling.
Very good. That's
Okay.
correct.
Well, here's the issue with that. The way that I've got this code set up, you'll see, is that it requires a certain number of strokes. Stroke meaning a line drawn in pencil or with the line tool. And the reason I did that is because I wanted to ensure that students were not just drawing the figure, but that they were actually labeling. And these two features, the text and the math type features, are so new. There aren't really any coding. There isn't really any coding around these two. So the only way that I could ensure that my students were labeling their points was by requiring them to draw at least 5 strokes. Because once you draw 5 strokes, you're generally speaking going to continue until you finish. So you'll see it's not as sophisticated as it seems, and there's definitely a hack around it. But I actually figured out a way to outsmart people who would exploit that hack, which I'll get into later. But so does that clarify, does that show you how the coding is working, what the coding is thinking? It's just counting how many strokes do you have, and once you reach the threshold, then it lets you check your answer.
Yes, I'll give it a try and see if it works out on my
yeah, please do.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. So, no, I don't want that. I want this. So you can just draw random lines here. And then once you check your answer, students have the ability to self-assess. And I think that this is a really important skill for them to be able to look at their work and identify, did I do it correctly or did I not? So I really found this to be a useful setup, especially for graphical answers. And you could do this for all kinds of things. 7th grade, for example, 8th grade even. You could do, actually, especially 8th grade, you could do this with drawing lines. I mentioned that my partner teaches high school, and she did inverse functions. So she actually, what she would do is she would give her students one function and then tell them draw the inverse of it, and then they'd be able to check their answer and do everything right here. So this has a wide range of applicability, not just to transformations. So let's now actually take a look at the coding. This one is a little bit more complicated. There's a lot that I could go into here. For the sake of time, I'm not going to. That doesn't mean that I can't or won't explain some other time or at the end of the session, but this is not the key part. The key part is understanding how to actually do the self-assessment part. So that's what I'll focus on. Yes, so Jose, that's a great question. And let me show you. It automatically saves. The other thing is, if you go to teacher.desmos.com and you go to your custom activities, you'll see the copy of it show up here. So if you go to that custom activities, you'll see it show up, and it's so wonderful. It auto saves everything that you do and that the students do. I know, isn't that wonderful? Yeah, that's another thing I love about Desmos. Anyways, so we've got a lot of different elements in here. A lot of different elements. What I will say about this, actually, no, I'll get to that later. I'll get to that part in a little bit. So the first element I'm going to talk about is the button. I don't want them pressing this button unless they've done work. I don't want them to. Because otherwise, it's just a pass to get out of doing the work. And that I'm not okay with. So what I'm going to do, and the hidden, I'm not going to go over the hidden because I did that earlier. But the two key things that I'm going to go over are the disabled function. Caveat, I do not like that term. I believe that the use of that term is ableist as a disabled person in describing this, but that's the term they use and they have yet to change it. So I will continue using it. But that's my rant over. Anyway, so the disabled function essentially will make the button unclickable. They can't click on the button. And they cannot click on it when reflect one, okay, that's the name of this sketch here. When reflect one and the sketch, okay, so this one is an object within an object, or a quality of the object. So reflect one is the object. The sketch is the quality of that object. And the stroke count is the quality of that quality. When the stroke count is greater than or equal to 6, it is false that the button is disabled. Otherwise, so when you have more than or equal to 6 strokes, it is true. So that's how I control whether they have access to checking their answer. They can only check their answer if they've drawn at least 6 strokes. Now the label, okay? Because I change the label depending on whether they've actually done it, whether they've actually done the work. Oh, it says reflecting. I should have updated that to say rotating anyways. But once they draw their strokes, it changes from, check answer, please keep trying, to check answer. So the code for that is label. And it's the exact same setup as with the disabled code, except now I'm actually inputting a string, some words. So when the stroke count is greater than or equal to 6, it says check answer. Otherwise, it says check answer, please try, and I'll change it now. Rotating. You can tell this, you can tell I copied this. I duplicated this from my lesson on reflections and forgot to change that. Anyway, so does this code right here make sense? Does it make sense? Thank you, Mark. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to look at what actually happens in here. I said I wasn't going to go over how I constructed the figures, but I am going to go over one key piece. I have constructed 2 figures, the pre-image and the image. But I don't want them to see the image, the answer, until they have clicked the button. So what I've done is I've set a variable here, lowercase a, equal to 0. Okay? And you'll notice that I've added it to all the y values for each of these ordered pairs. So C prime, for example, is not 0, 3, it's 0, 3 plus a. Well, right now a is 0, so that doesn't mean anything. It's essentially just 0, 3. What I do is I use the code number a when the button has been pressed more than 0 times. The value of a is 0. But otherwise, if the button has not yet been pressed, the value is 1,000. So right now, that answer, the image is still technically being constructed, but this graph only goes to about 8.5 and on the y-axis, and right now it's so far up, it's around 1,000 on the y-axis that you just can't see it. So that's what I do to get it so that the answer isn't visible. It's still constructed there, but I conditionally change the y value so that it's either, correct, or 1,000, I've artificially inflated it 1,000 times. I know, I got to say, I was very proud of myself when I figured that out. Because, yeah, they don't actually have an easy hidden code for a figure. So that's the workaround. Okay, you just add, and it doesn't have to be the y-axis. It could be, you could theoretically do both. Just make sure if you do both, you do it to all of them, because otherwise it might show up weird on the screen. But yeah, so that's the deal. That's the logic behind how you get the answer to show up here. So does that part make sense? And right here, this you won't really have to change. Okay, the only thing you'll need to be aware of is if you've got an equation in here. So like, for example, let's say that you're doing a linear equation. Okay, and your whole goal here, I'll just to make it cleaner, I'll put a new graph in here. Let's say you've got, y equals 3x plus 1. You can do the same thing, okay? And you adjust y equals 3x plus 1 plus a. And if you set, and if you do that conditional formatting, like here, and you can literally just copy and paste that, it will automatically move. And if you set this, when it's set to 1,000, it's not visible. You could do that with inverse operations. You can do that with just about everything. And I'll tell you right now, this code, you can copy and paste it. The only thing you would need to change is the button name. If for some reason you name your button something other than check 1, you would need to change the name. But otherwise, you can literally just copy and paste, use that code verbatim. So here's where we get into the conditional part, and it's actually a lot easier, okay? Because they can see for themselves whether they got it right or wrong. Desmos cannot assess this, okay? Desmos can't look and say, oh, well, they were in the right area, but they had the wrong vertices. No, Desmos cannot do that. It does not have the AI, functionality. So that it's on the students to self-assess. So that's why for the students, we need to ask them, did they correctly rotate it? And that is a lot of power, because they could theoretically do yes, but I tell them if you do that, you're just hurting themselves. And I've only had it once or twice where a student didn't select correctly. And both times we had a good talk, and then they stopped doing it. Oh, actually, no, I'll keep going and then I'll show you the outsmarting students trick. Anyways, so it's a simple hidden command right here. When the button press count is greater than 0, it is false that this question is hidden. Otherwise, it's true that the question is hidden. And then lastly, we go to the multiple choice. And there's 2 options. Yes, you were correct. No, you were not. But depending on whether you're correct or not, you should be asked a different question. So again, we've got that same hidden piece because we don't want this visible. We don't want them to be able to interact with it until they have finished. So we're going to use the explain prompt command. And the explain prompt command controls what prompt they're given once they choose an answer for a selected response or a multiple choice. Okay, so we're going to use that edit prompt right here. And when this, and this is referencing the multiple choice. Okay, we're in the multiple choice object. So this is referring to that multiple choice. When this dot is selected 1, that means when the first option is selected, the prompt that they're given is explain what you did to produce the rotation of CDE. Otherwise, what was your mistake? What could you fix to correctly translate the figure? And they're getting that second question any time that, you know, the first option isn't selected, which is inherently the second selection, but we need to use that otherwise because, again, computers are pretty dumb and it won't know that that's the end unless you tell it. And the way you tell it it's the end, that's the last option, is with the otherwise command. So does this part make sense here, everyone? Yes, no? Does that make sense what we're doing? Okay. So I got to give credit to somebody else. Anyone know Tate Anderson, Salinas High? Anyone know Tate? Maybe not. Anyways, I know Tate because
I know Tate, Erika. This
oh, nice.
Yeah, I know Tate.
Well,
couldn't find my...
Oh, sorry, go for it.
Oh, I was just saying I couldn't find my unmute button, but yes.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, Tate's wonderful. He's awesome, and I'd been teaching him some Desmos over, quarter 4 during Math Saturday. And I work with middle schoolers. Middle schoolers, they're still pre-humans. They're still figuring stuff out. I didn't have a single middle schooler who figured out that if they just did 6 random strokes, they could then check their answer and then just draw it here, say it matched, and be done. I never had a single middle schooler figure that out. Tate was like, yeah, my students are going to figure that out. They will find any and every way to figure that out and exploit it. So here's the workaround. And I would say if you teach high school, this is probably more for you. But on a test, for example, you might even want to consider this coding. Maybe not in the same context, but it is useful to know. We're going to use that same disabled sketch. And again, not my ideal terminology, but that's the terminology that they use. We're going to use disable sketch when check 1, the button, press count is greater than 0. Okay, we are going to say true. If they have pressed the button more than 0 times, it is true that we want the sketch to not be able to be edited. Otherwise, false. And what that does is, if you do have a student who does this and then checks their answer, now they can't edit it. They can't do anything. And so they'll do that once, And then very quickly learn to never do that again. Because now you have a recorded in perpetuity, unchangeable, they cannot edit it, that, that they were just goofing around. So if that becomes a problem for your students, where you notice that they figured out the little hack and they're checking check answer and then copying it down once it's drawn, you can use that disable sketch, function or sync to make it ineditable. Okay. Any other questions? Anything else I can do to support? I realize I've been talking a long time, so I'm going to take a breath, and for no other reason than for my throat to get some rest. How's everyone feeling? Anyone feeling a little overwhelmed? Because this is a lot. So here's what I would say. Yeah, feel okay. Anything I can help with, Ernesto, or is it just like it does? Well, and that's what I would say, Jose, is the practice really helps. If there's anything I can help with, Ernesto, let me know. But if not, what I would say is right now on task 2, you've got all okay. Well, hopefully you're able to get stuff out of this. Yeah. And the practice part is going to be so important because at first it's going to take you maybe 30 minutes to do one problem. And it's going to seem like, oh my gosh, this is too much work. And I guarantee you, if you do it a few times, you get it to the point where it's like, copy, spend a minute changing the numbers, done. Copy, okay, maybe I got to spend 2 minutes because I got to edit the shapes, but 2 minutes for a problem like this, I think that's well worth the time investment. So if you have not yet, move on to task 2 and duplicate it and make something. And I'm going to stop presenting. So if anyone wants to, throughout this time, let's reconvene in 15 minutes, which I know is not as much time as I'd like to give. But I'll put the link again in the chat to the computational layer. If anyone wants to play around and really go out there, you can use this to help you find some new stuff we didn't go over today because there's so much. But yeah, go ahead, create a problem. Let me know if there's anything that I can help with, any debugging I can do. I really appreciated Jose sharing his screen because that was awesome to get to show all that debugging process. So thank you. Yeah, so if anyone has any questions, let me know. But yeah, use this time as is best for you. Oh, Servando, I just realized I still need to finish answering your, okay. I'll get to that in just a second. I'll get you the answer in just a minute, Servando. And by the way, would anyone else, would anyone like me to send them, because I think it'll take a couple weeks for the ed techs to get the video recordings up there. Would anyone like me to send them link, the link to yesterday's recording? It was Introduction to Coding. So, and we did very basic, went over, you know, like how to do Desmos. Okay. So let me take. Okay. So, Ramon. And Servando, I saw your question. I'll get to that in just a second. Ernesto, Jose, Servando, Mark, Lori, Alyssa, Teresa, Femi. No, yes. What I'll do is I'll send both of them to everyone who's asking. So I've got Ramon, Ernesto, Jose, Servando, Mark, Lori, Alyssa, Teresa, and Femi and Stefan. So I will send you both Wednesday and Thursday. Actually, and I can send today's as well too. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I'll send all three to these folks. Okay. Let me scroll up again and Servando on slide 4 after answering the. Okay, so that's a great question, Servando. So in this dot is selected 1. That refers to the first multiple choice answer. So here, I'll present my screen. So right here, oh, and Osman as well. Okay, I'll add you to the list. There we go. Yeah. So like, for example, just to be confusing, you could make it 2. And then anytime if they press yes, it's now wrong, and no, it's right, you know. So that makes it extra confusing. I'll fix that. But yeah, the number next is selected is whatever number in the list that multiple choice refers to. One thing just to note, could you show for 3 options? Yeah, so for example, you could have yes, no, maybe, so. And so then in that case, you could do it exactly. So you would do when this dot is selected, and you could do 2 or 3. I'm going to do 3 in this case because I want to be snarky. Why do you pick this? And then otherwise, the key thing is you're going to have n-1 when statements and then that 1 otherwise statement. And so here, the way I've got it set up now is that if they check yes, they get a prompt. If they check no, they get asked what mistake did they make. And if they check maybe so, they get a snarky response. And so you can do that. I've done that before. like especially for warm-ups, I'll have like for ice cream flavor, like 6 or 7 choices of ice cream, and each one will have their own specific follow-up question response. So yeah. Does that help clarify, Servando? Awesome. Great question. Okay. Okay. So Servando, I figured out it works fine. When you've got conditionals, so actually here, let me present my screen. Oh, I'm already presenting my screen. What am I doing? Servando, right here, I don't know why this is the first thing that came to my mind. But I've got this long line of code, doesn't fit, goes to the next line. It works. And if I put an enter in here, it still works. Okay, so if I select all of these, it still changes, which it still does what I wanted it to do. So I think with the conditional formatting, it doesn't actually matter how many spaces are there, whatnot. All that matters is the when and the otherwise. Okay. And I will go ahead. So I'm going to go ahead and, I think so. I mean, I'm sure you could find some cases where that's not the case, but yeah, it doesn't seem to be an issue. Okay. Lynn. Thanks. Need. Femi. Okay, so I'm going to start sending videos to everyone. Anyone else who would like me to send them Wednesday, Thursday, and today's video. I've got Ramon, Ernesto, Jose, Servando, Mark, Lori, Alyssa, Teresa, Femi, Stefan, Osman, Chloe. Okay. So Chloe, I got you. Jennifer, I know, Jennifer, you were having some tech troubles. Do you want me to send you the videos? Okay. So I will go ahead. Yes, go for it, Catherine.
So I made a line and then I did a growth triangle and a color.
Yeah.
But is there a way to label the line so that I can put like a 2 or a 1 or?
When you say label the line, can you clarify, or actually, would you mind presenting your screen?
Sure.
Okay. It's easier for me to know.
Yeah, I'm visual, so I would have to have the kid show it to me. So.
Yeah, same.
So, where did it go?
If you click on home, it'll show up in the
I don't
middle.
know.
Oh, do you see the home icon? Middle on the right side.
The plus? No.
Oh, sorry, on the right side of the screen?
The done? Oh, home. I see it.
Yep, there you go.
So, see how I have the dotted line?
Oh, yeah, perfect.
So I want to put a 2 there to show the growth triangle. You know, like this is a 2 and this is a 1. Is there a way to do that?
There is. What you have to do is create an ordered pair for that midpoint. So basically 0 comma 0.5. And then you would make that point invisible and then you would label it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So there's no way to label a line, but that's the pretty simple workaround.
Okay.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
Awesome. Of course. Catherine, do you want me to send you yesterday's video?
Yeah, can you?
Yeah, of course. Okay. So let me do that before I forget. Okay. Okay. So real quick, because we're coming towards the end, I just want to ask, because I know most people here are new to Desmos, and I know there are even some folks here who were a little Desmos afraid at first. Is this starting to feel like Desmos is for you? Is it starting to feel like you can Desmos too? Yeah. Good. I'm glad. I really hope so, because and there's a reason I shared that story at the beginning. I literally fail. Oh, okay. Well, here's what I would say, Allie. Please know that you can reach out to me at any point throughout the year. And not only that, look, if you watch back to the other videos, I think it will make a bit more sense. Like I said, today required a bit more, stuff. Also, Catherine, I don't know if you know, but you're presenting still, which is totally fine. But just want to make sure you knew. And yeah, it will take practice. It will take practice, but my hope is that with the tools I've given you and the strategies I've shown, my hope is that it takes you a lot less time than it did for me, because I love spending time on random deep dives, and I'm happy to spend 8 hours over 16 hours over 2 days off, researching this, but I have no kids and I'm neurodivergent. So what else are you going to do? So my hope is that this becomes something that you feel confident in with some practice, but I also want you to know that I am very okay being a resource throughout the year. I will, if I'm too busy, then I'll just say, I'm so sorry, I'm too busy, I can't help right now. But I'm hoping that I'll be able to be a resource. And I'm working with the both the outgoing and the incoming middle school math specialists or middle school math curriculum specialists to create some more Desmos resources in the forms of video tutorials and other stuff like that. So hopefully we're able to get that done, because let me just ask, is this a tool that you see being useful in your classroom if you knew how to use it well? Nice. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I really think that this offers so much. I mean, not just for you know, a virtual learning, and knock on wood that we never have to do that again. But in person as well, I really do think that this offers possibilities that we never even dreamt of. I remember in Lisa's class when I was a student teacher, we would do group activities, and a lot of our time was spent running around, you know, checking to make sure, oh, yep, you got that correct, you know, and what I feel like these tools allow us to do is they get to do that. The students themselves get to see, are they correct or not? And we get to focus our time on who are the students who need support accessing this material. Because really that's the students I want to spend a lot of my time with, either the students who need help accessing or the students who have finished and need, you know, a challenge. So I feel like these tools allow us to help both of those populations that historically haven't always been served well. So I'm really excited to implement this into my classroom this coming year. I'm really excited to play around with it. And more importantly, I'm really excited to learn from y'all. I learned so much this year from other people, from my PLC who got into Desmos as well. Tate Anderson taught me a cool hack with Desmos that I was just like, I had no clue you could do that. So I'm genuinely excited to learn from each of you and to, you know, work on Desmos together should you wish. Please feel free to reach out to me. Please feel free to pick my brain. I'm going to put the exit survey into the chat. If you would not mind, please do complete that, because I really do value your feedback. Those of you who asked, I'm going to send you today's video recording. Already sent you yesterday's, and then I will send Wednesday's as well. If there are any questions, I can stick around for another 20 minutes or so. But once you complete that exit survey, please feel free to leave and enjoy your Friday. So thank you so much for coming. Thanks so much for spending 2 hours, because that's a long time to spend, especially with, you know, school coming up, but I appreciate that. Bye, Leticia. Bye, everyone. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you, Lisa. Seriously, Lisa, thank you, because without you, I would not have gotten into Desmos. Thank you, Alyssa. Bye, Jose. Thank you. Goodbye, everyone. Please let me know if there's anything else you'd like to ask. I can stay around for another 20 minutes or so. Just let me know. Hey, how's it going, Teresa?
Pretty good. How are you?
Doing good. Doing good. Oh, yeah.
I will let Lori talk and I will mute for a minute and then Lori can talk.
Okay. Oh, you got to unmute, Lori. Oh, no worries, Stefan. Oh, yeah. Thank you, Ramon. Thanks so much for coming. Oh, the link. Yes, I will put the link in there. There's the link to the exit survey. Okay. I'm so glad y'all enjoyed it. Thank you, Ramon. I'm so happy you're enjoying this, Stefan. It is pretty fun.
Lori, you're on mute. Oh, okay. She knows that.
Okay, so now that you all know that I'm probably going to really struggle with this based upon what you've just seen me do the last 5 minutes. I'm in my car because I'm trying to get to the beach for just a few minutes before the sun goes away in Marina. And I thought I could double up. I could just finish this up on the way, but I was wrong because I don't know how to use this on my phone clearly. Mike, I was just wanting to ask you, Erika, Lynn, if you would just put the exit survey back in the chat so I could do it.
Oh, yes.
Just so you know, I pulled over. I'm not driving because I obviously can't even do this parked. You can imagine how many cats and trash cans I would probably take out if I was driving. So I'll wait for that.
No
And again, thank you so much. And we are going to get to know each other. I hope that doesn't scare you.
No, that does not scare me. That excites me. I'm serious. I genuinely love working on Desmos, and I love working with people in Desmos because I know what a game changer it was, not just for me as a teacher, but for my students.
Right.
And
I think what's important is, and it's kind of on the UDL, is that making sure that there's many windows. I always tell kids if the front door is not open, try a window, because I'm a SPED teacher. So we want to have as many points of access as possible. And I think you can build that in with Desmos. And I also think what it does do is it allows you to, and of course, yes, you want to work with those kids who need extensions and modifications, but social emotional learning. So you don't spend your time checking math, but you spend your time checking on your kids and building those relationships, which then helps them do better. Anyway, so I love it, and I'll quit talking and I'll wait for that in the chat. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, well, and real quick before you head off, Lori, one other thing, because Teresa and I shared yesterday, Teresa and I were partnered up for most of last year until the end when we had to switch, but and we're going to be partnered again this year. One thing that Teresa mentioned that she really appreciated about Desmos as a SPED teacher was that she got to have a consistent record of student work over time in a centralized location. And that made it really easy for her to pull for an IEP or for assessment data or whatnot. And so I think for academically disabled students and their case carriers, it's a really great way to organize and deliver instruction.
That's great, Teresa. I hadn't thought about that, but I'm really trying to tailor my goals to not just be such really generic, vomit. I hate to say that, but that's what when I look at my old goals. I'm like, oh my God. Anyway, and also I think to teach the kids to look at them, and so that's what I'm trying to move with even with high school, is for them to be in the driving seat of where am I, where do I want to go, how do I know where I am, and how do I know when I get there. And so looking at that growth as well, so almost like a portfolio. I don't know. So I'm new. Again, I am, as a co-teacher, I just get to add what will, I'm it's like being married. We got to figure it out. And I don't know what I'm doing next year anyway, Teresa. So that's a whole other story. But I agree. What a wonderful tool. And I've always thought it was kind of underused by me. And I also want to say that to be using that Desmos calculator, because that's what they use on the CASP and what they use. Is also very powerful. So I'm hoping I can add some stuff with that in there. Anyway, I swear I'll stop talking.
Oh, no, you're good. Do you know how to add the Desmos calculator into the Desmos activities?
No, but I have no more brain cells function,
Okay.
Erika. Then you would be throwing your pearls before swine if you tell me this right now. Because I have got to process. I told you.
Yeah.
So, but I might ask you once I realize that I can't process and can't figure it out.
Okay. Whenever you're ready, let me know, because it's literally you check one button and then the calculator's there.
Oh, that is
Erika, Lynn, if you do a work session with Lori later, I would piggyback in on it. Our speeds are about the same, I think. So we work well together when we've done other activities with our SPED department. And
nice.
I don't know, Lori might be a little faster than me, because I definitely know that I'm that slow turtle as well. So if she's comfortable with that, I'd be happy to piggyback into the conversation. So,
Teresa, I'm very comfortable myself. Erika, whatever you decide. But today I do have a 1:30 meeting to find out what I'm actually doing this school year, because I really don't know. I'm not at Alvarez anymore. So I don't know that I can do it today, but if Erika, if you have a time frame, and Teresa, you do, if you want to shoot some times out, only thing I could pay you in coffee cards, Erika. I could get you a Starbucks, but that's
honestly, it's really no big deal. Here's what I will say. I am going to be a bit busy for the next couple of weeks, because I'm currently working with my principal and Blanca to create a queer trans Salinas Union High School District Task Force. And we're doing a bunch of stuff with that. We just got approval, and she never said I couldn't say, so I don't know if I shouldn't be saying anything. But yeah, so I'm going to be having some meetings and I'm going to be doing some stuff with that. So I don't know what my availability is going to be for the next couple of weeks, but
Excuse me for just a moment. You might want to turn off record.
oh,
You can edit it though.